Okay, good afternoon. Welcome to the regularly scheduled meeting of the Oklahoma City Board of Adjustment for February 1st. Before we call the meeting to order, just a couple of announcements. If you would, please silence your cell phones if you brought those with you. Also, if you need to speak on an item and you're not the applicant, you are welcome to fill out a little sheet of paper out on the front desk and provide that to Cindy, and we'll call your name when it's the appropriate time. If you would, when you come to the microphone, please be sure you speak directly into the microphone. And if you'll give your name and address for the record when you get up there, that would be great. And with that, I'll call the meeting to order, and our first order of business is to receive the minutes of the January 1st, 2018 meeting.
I move to approve them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to receive the minutes. Please cast your votes. The minutes are received. Next order of business, continuance requests and withdrawals from staff.
Item number 1, case number 14416 is requesting that case be withdrawn.
Is there anybody here that wants to be heard on that matter today? Again, that's case number 14416. If no one, I'd take a motion to withdraw the item.
Move to withdraw.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to withdraw. Please cast your votes, please. And the item is withdrawn.
We have item number 2, case number 14441, and item number 3, case number 14446, requesting to be continued to March 15th.
Was there anybody here that was hoping to be heard on either of those matters today? If not, I will take a motion to continue the items.
I'll move to continue them.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14441 and case number 14446 to the March 15, 2018 meeting. Please cast your vote. Those items are continued.
And we have item number 7, case number 14374, requesting to be continued to the April 5th meeting.
Anybody here that wanted to be heard on that matter today? Again, that's case number 14374. If not, I will take a motion to continue that
Move to
item.
continue that.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14374 to April the 5th. Please cast your votes, please. And the item is continued. The reason most of those items are continued is because, as you can tell, we have 3 members of our board here today. And so with that, I would invite anyone who has a case pending today, if you'd like to make a request for continuance as well, this would be a great time to do that. Is there anybody that would like to ask that their item be continued?
You want to tell them why?
Well, yes, sir. Thank you. With only 3 board members, you would need everyone's vote sitting here today to get your item approved. Typically, there are 5 board members. So we're down 2 members. You'd need a unanimous vote to have your item approved. Okay.
Item number 4, case number 14450, application for a special exception to permit an RV campground and a variance to the required site-proof screening around the campground in the I-1 Light Industrial District located at 3300 North Cimarron Road.
Good afternoon, Jason Spencer with Craft & Tall. On behalf of the applicant, 300 Point Parkway Boulevard. So before you today's application for a special exception to allow for the RV park in I-1 zoning. It's located at the northeast corner of I-40 and Cimarron Road. It's the old Statuary World property. The RV park will be on 16 acres. It'll provide 124 RV spaces. It's going to have amenities that will include a clubhouse, utility connections to each parking stall, and paved streets and RV pads. So lodging accommodations campgrounds is allowed in the I-1 zoning district with a special exception, and that's why we're here today. The code lists several special exception requirements for the RV park within I-1 zoning. We will meet or exceed all those requirements with the exception of site-proof screening, which the code requires for site-proof screening to be provided around all sides of the site. With this request, we've also included a variance request in our application to remove that requirement on the north, west, and south sides. I'll talk briefly about the variance request. So visibility from the adjacent I-40 is going to be crucial to the success of this RV park. The property is bordered on the south by I-40, on the west by Cimarron Road, and then on the north by the former Statuary World building that's under the same ownership as the RV park. So in lieu of site-proof screening on those three sides, we would propose to provide a decorative split rail type fence that would be more consistent with the outdoor feel of the RV park. We will continue to provide the site-proof screening on the east where it is adjacent to other industrial uses. This is very similar to Mustang Run RV Park, which is just a little ways east of the site on I-40 and Mustang Road, which they have a split rail type fence along I-40, and that's what we'd be asking for, something similar to that. This variance is not likely to affect public convenience, use, or safety. Will not impact the neighboring properties since it's along I-40, Cimarron Road right away, and the building under the same ownership. So we feel that an upscale RV park makes sense in this location. Staff is in support and has identified no favorable or unfavorable considerations. So we would ask for approval on both the variance and special exception, and I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, questions for the applicant?
I just noticed you were asking us to approve the special exception, which would require that, but you're asking us secondarily to vary that particular special exception with regard to the site-proof fencing. I just noted it was very close to the highway, and I didn't know if that, I don't know how that would look with this. You said the split rail was done down the highway somewhere?
Yeah, on I-40 and Mustang Road, there's an RV park on the south side of I-40. It's Mustang Run RV Park, and they've got a white split rail type fence. It looks really good, I think, from the interstate. And so we'd be looking for something similar to that. So
it will be continually, it will be all surrounded with it, and what will the height be?
So typically those range from about 4 to 6 foot tall.
So, and is the other one the same closeness to the highway as your
Yes.
application?
It borders the right-of-way for the ODOT right-of-way for Interstate 40, just as this one does. And in fact, it's probably got more frontage along I-40 since a lot of this property's frontage is actually, on the off-ramp there. But yes, it sits right up against the highway like this one does.
I have a question of staff on that. The substitute fencing, will that provide sufficient privacy and with respect to the site from the highway in lieu of the site-proof fencing?
It's more of a decorative fence than a site-proof fence. It doesn't really provide any visual screen, but it's more decorative than it is site-proof.
And our understanding of the requirement for the site-proof screening is specifically with the RV park within the industrial uses to border them from the industrial uses, and since it's not really an industrial use on I-40 and Cimarron Road, we would think that could, make a little bit more sense without doing site-proof.
I think unfortunately the requirements for the special exception for this use are a little unclear. In other words, it would have been great if we would have gotten direction from an ordinance level on whether the intent here was to protect abutting residential or something like that. I think, the challenge in interpreting this one comes from what was the real intent of that ordinance, because that's, I think, the lens with which we have to view the variance through. And clearly, is there anybody here that wanted to be heard on this matter today? I have a hard time believing that surrounding industrial users are very concerned about site-proof. I mean, there's a pipe yard to the north of this. So I'm not bothered by the lack of site-proof fencing giving the zoning of the abutting use, but it's a little difficult to interpret. I mean, you're making one interpretation of it, and I came up with 3 or 4. So those would be my comments, but I don't have a problem with the application.
I'd move approval.
I second the approval on the variance.
If we could, let's, I guess, do we need to vary this? We need to approve the variance first or the special exception? That's what I thought. Yep. We need to take the special exception first.
I'd move approval of the special exception.
I would second, for the reason that all the requisites have been established.
I have a motion and a second to approve the special exception for case number 14450 on the grounds that all of the items requirements have been met. Please cast your votes, please. And the special exception is approved. Need a separate motion on the variance.
I'd move approval of the variance.
I would just ask for a qualification if the split rail fence will be provided as stated in the condition of the variance, or is that already required? Before I second, on a condition.
That we will provide the split rail fence, and we'll agree to that.
You with that? Yeah. Okay, so I have a motion and a second to approve the variance for case number 14450 on the condition that the split rail fencing would be provided as outlined in the application. Please cast your votes, please. And the variance is approved.
Thank you all.
Item number 5, case number 14451, request of Sleep Studio Properties for a variance to the maximum 30-foot sign height and 200-square-foot sign display area in PUD 249 district located at 3400 West Memorial Road.
Good afternoon. Tim Johnson, 1 East Sheridan, Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. Here on behalf of the applicant. Here with me also is Eric Gransberg, who is working with me on getting the images that you have before you. We also have a little video I'm going to show you, but let me give you a little background on the case. As the staff has pointed out, and in our application we pointed out that when PUD 249 was drafted and approved, the interchange at Memorial and Lake Hefner Parkway was not finalized, contemplated, and at the end of the day, that overpass ramp got built much higher than even was presented to the neighbors adjacent to it. So it created an anomaly for this tract of land, and as you are aware, if you drive in this part of the city, this has taken a while to develop. And so the reason we're asking for this is because of, from all directions, the view of the existing hotel sign, which is built 200 square feet and 30 foot high, you don't even see it in any of the images. And you might ask, well, why didn't they come in for a variance? Well, I'm glad you would ask that because they're 7 stories tall. We're 28 feet tall on our buildings and set back from the highway. So their signage is obviously their structure themselves. So in order to get especially westbound traffic to visualize and know to exit on Portland, the height of this sign is necessary to achieve that. And because of the height and the additional height, we've asked for the additional scale up from the 200 square feet. I'm not sure where the 200 feet came from. Standard C3 allows 300 square feet, or does that allow 2? I'm sorry. And so just to give you a better view of kind of where we are, so this is the flyover that I'm talking about. This is our structure where that pin is. The next EMD sign closest to us is on the other side of the highway in the little shopping center where the hotel's getting built behind it.
That's that's a billboard, the other sign you're pointing out, correct?
Yes.
That's a non-accessory
Yes.
sign, correct? Okay.
Yeah. It is EMD. So with that, can we show the video real quick? And then I'll walk you through the pictures I gave you. This is just easier to see, and it's very short. So as we're headed westbound, we're going to stop here maybe. So our property's on the left. That car kind of gets in our way, but it's right over there where the arrow is. And you can't see the hotel sign there, and if we built a 30-foot sign there, you couldn't see it at all. So this is, you'd have to get off here in order to make the turn through the interchange to get back to the Mathis Brothers property that's pointed out there. Again, another shot, you wouldn't be able to see the sign. turn around going back the other way, this is eastbound on Memorial. You can see the hotel sign there, and we're asking to be a few feet above that, 20 feet above that. But I don't think it would, by having that sign at that location doesn't necessarily, so you can see our location, and that's to scale as far as the size. And it just allows them to advertise what they do. So on the photos I gave you, they're a little bit larger than what was in your packet. The first one is that westbound picture, and you can see the sign on the left in red is just visible above the parapet.
And that's, you're showing that at the 50-foot height
50 feet,
requested?
yeah.
Oh, okay. How tall was that Rudy sign on the other side of the highway?
We estimated it was 50 feet. Yeah. It's just not a big wide sign, it's more vertical. And then the next picture, that's from the overpass, and you can see in scale, it's not like a billboard like you mentioned. Third picture, on the turnpike with the overpass blocking the view, the driver would need to get past the overpass merging in order to know to get off at May Avenue. And this just gives them a little heads up. At 30 feet, you wouldn't be able to see it at that location. And then the last one is just at the end of that ramp, gives you a better idea of the scale versus the buildings around it. So we think that due to the fact the turnpike was built after the zoning was considered, it creates an anomaly and a hardship on this property. When we negotiated the Chisholm Creek signs at the Planning Commission level, we were able to use 30-foot signs because Chisholm Creek is about 40 feet above the highway there. So it made sense, and that's the scale of the sign that works there. And consistently up and down the turnpike, the signs are generally, where the turnpike is elevated, the signs are lower. Where the turnpikes are below grade, the signs, I'm sorry, I got that backwards. The signs are higher, and where the turnpike's below grade, the signs are lower. And that just happens naturally along the frontage. So with that, I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Board members, questions for the applicant? My only comment is we've had other people come in here before and make a similar argument, which I think is a fair argument to make, in that elevations create discrepancies that you really can't contemplate. And we've seen a couple examples that really make a lot of sense in that regard, and then we've seen some that don't make a lot of sense. But I understand the elevation distinction and the fact that you're now competing with elements for a site that you didn't bargain for.
Mm-hmm.
When the site was done. I think your application says 1988. Is that right?
That's correct.
A few questions. I do find it distracting, though. I mean, it's my personal view when you're going on this turnpike area, it is distracting, and it is quite a bit considerably larger than that was originally designed. Do you have any alternative ideas about the size of the sign?
Well, obviously, height is our biggest concern. We want to be able to be seen. The size of the sign could be reduced. They'd be happy with 300 feet. And that would be, what did you say, 10 by 30? Yeah.
What about the height? Is this just the unusual location with the grade of the turnpike? Is that
Yes.
what you're saying? So other signs may only be 30 feet
Yes.
down the highway?
Yes.
But they're likewise allowable to that close proximity to the access road and everything else?
Yes. I think the uniqueness here is really the overpass and the height of the bridge over Lake Hefner Parkway. You don't have that anywhere else along the turnpike in either direction. And it's just the height of that interchange. And it's just an anomaly because I don't think that interchange is finished. I think they had a plan to not have you exit at Lake Hefner Parkway to get on the turnpike, and that never was built.
I take that stretch every day, as it were, and when you're coming, I guess it would be really eastbound on the turnpike, you have to exit the turnpike, cross 3 lanes of traffic to get back and merge onto Hefner Parkway. Similarly, if you're going westbound, you've got to exit. It is a strange, and you have to believe that over time that infrastructure is going to continue to evolve because it carries a ton of traffic.
I have faith in the ODOT engineers that they had thought ahead.
I'm sure you do.
So back to your question, I think if it would make it easier, we really would like to have the 50 feet just because you can't see it from so many locations. We can reduce our scale to 300.
But you're limiting this to one sign. I mean, I know your application
sign,
references,
yes.
You've got 4 signs here that you're still allowed, and the
In the
application is
PUD, yes.
within the PUD, right?
Yeah,
So-
this is just one sign. That's all we're asking for. And it's a special case.
Okay. Are there any more questions of the applicant at this time?
I believe he's amended that to reflect the 300 feet, is that correct? He's willing to amend it?
Sounds to me like that's a friendly
Yes.
amendment you're willing to accept. Okay. Other questions? I do have somebody who signed up to speak, so at this time I'll call them forward. Is Eric Roberts here? Please.
I'm Eric Roberts at 3449 Stonebrook Court, Oklahoma City, and I speak as 2 parties, one as a homeowner that would be impacted by the sign, as well as the developer for Memorial Business Park. Mr. Johnson did state that I think the hotels were 7 stories. That is incorrect. One is 4 and one is 3. And let's see. According to PUD 249, it is a C3 development, which in turn limitations on character and intensity of use, assuring compatibility with adjoining and approximate properties. And what Mr. Johnson told you was everything from his store north, not from his store to the south. He said that his building was 28 feet. So if you put a 50-foot sign, that's going to be 22 feet above the top of their sign. And if you go back to the south, where there's a neighborhood, that will be directly impacting that. There'll be a direct line of sight into the backyards of the Stonebrook addition, which is to the south, just a couple hundred feet. And also, I think in the application, he applied for an electronic sign. So that means it'll be a digital LED sign running 24 hours a day. And I believe since it's to be a private sign, that would not be subject to the 8-second static rule, meaning they could run full motion graphics 24/7 right into the backyards of the people a couple hundred feet away. And even in the sales contract, it says that they will abide by the rules of PUD 249. And then under miscellaneous, that would be, there was 4 pole signs allocated to PUD 249, 4 of the 30-foot pole signs, and then 3 monument signs. The business to the east has a monument sign. The hotel to the west does have a 30-foot sign. And the 30-foot, actually in that contract, it would state in there that if a pole sign was even allocated to this property. And in the sales contract, under the miscellaneous section, there is no saying in there that they even have the 30-foot sign. And then there's also another addition into the miscellaneous section that seller has a vested interest in the property to the south, and buyer will make reasonable efforts to sight screen and minimize views of dumpsters, truck docks, delivery trucks, et cetera. And et cetera would be basically views from the south, and that sign will be sticking up way above the top of the building, directly affecting the properties to the south. So with that, I think having a full motion sign viewable from people's backyards is not what we really want in Quail Creek. So I would vote to, I would hope you would vote to deny the variance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Is there any questions?
Yeah. Questions?
Well, I would like what was response from the applicant regarding about, we had the visualization as driving on the highway, but with
Yes.
respect to any visibility to, as he's stated, I don't want these signs being projected into the housing district at all, and I don't know that we've had that
And he
study
did-
yet or anything.
Mr. Johnson did mention that the Rudy's sign is 50 feet. Well, it's north of the Kilpatrick and the height of Kilpatrick, blocking that view from the south. And then the Rudy's is not impacting any housing. What's behind the Rudy's is a climate-controlled storage. So around the Rudy's with their 50-foot sign, it's all business. There is no housing.
Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Number one, our application is for an EMD1, which is regulated, same as the ODOT regulations. The 8-second rule, static images in between. The sign will be turned to where the face of the sign will face the highway in both directions. So the length and face of the sign will be north and south. So you see it going east, you see it going west, not directed at the neighborhood. But he's correct. I have not studied, because we're several hundred feet north of the back of Quail Creek, we did not study that. And with the line of sight and the buildings behind us, I would have to look and see if we could make sure that we don't have a conflict or projection there. And I'd be willing to continue and go look at that.
Is there anyone else that wants to be heard on the matter today? Nobody else had signed up to speak, but board members, other questions on the application or for the applicant?
I have none.
I don't have any I mean, I think you're going to, I'll be bold and say there's a reasonable chance you're going to wind up with a continuance anyway if we don't take an action. So, I mean, I would not be opposed to a continuance if you wanted to wait until we had a full board.
And we'd like the time to talk to Mr. Roberts as well as look at the impact to the neighborhood.
Okay. If there's no objection to that, I would take a motion. And again, we're going to continue this case without objection until March the 15th, which is the first meeting that we expect to have a full board here.
Okay.
Okay.
I'd move to continue it.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to continue case number 14451 to March the 15th. Please cast your votes, please.
Thank you.
And the item is continued. Thank you. And thank you as well, Mr. Roberts.
Item number 6, case number 14453, request of Clint Newsom for a variance to permit maneuvering on street right-of-way into DTD 2 Downtown Transitional District General, located at 631 West California Avenue. I might add that this was heard at the downtown DTD meeting this morning, and it was approved, and they also approved it for recommendation to be approved at the board.
Good afternoon. I'm Clint Newsom with Left Frame. Excuse me, 631 West California, Oklahoma City. We're requesting a variance for the maneuverability of the public right-of-way. Our project is a, 6-story mixed use. Top 3 stories are condos, and we're marketing these as high-end residential units with parking on the first floor. We have 6 spots, 1 for each condo, and retail on the south end. So as you can see, we're dealing with a challenging site here, 25-foot wide, and we really think that providing the parking is a necessary amenity for the type of clientele we're trying to issue into this area. We're also kind of trying to set a design precedent down here. Sorry, I'm the architect and owner on this project too. So we have two spots coming in from the south, and then the request is for the 2 entry points off of Lee Avenue, off the west edge of the property. By code, we're granted 2 entry points, not greater than 30 feet, and we're off the center line of California, far enough for our first entry. And so what we've done is we've tried to maintain all the existing site conditions, the streetlights, there's an AT&T box, and work around that to get parking underneath. And if you kind of look at the site plan, the drives are going to go up to the edge of the sidewalk, and then the sidewalk will be continuous all the way through. So we will provide truncated domes at every crossing point to alert pedestrians. We also, all the garage doors are going to have glass, so they'll be transparent. So anybody backing out is going to have visual connectivity as they back out before they even open up their garage door. And we also think that the opening of the garage door will signal any pedestrians of oncoming traffic. And from our building line out to the edge of the sidewalk is almost 8'2". So we're actually widening that space to kind of help prevent the narrowness of a pedestrian access through that. My business partner, one of my business partners and general contractor is certified with Oklahoma City for concrete work, so he'll be doing all the sidewalks, maintaining cross slope, all ADA accessible regulations. And we really think that if we don't provide this amenity, we can't market this project the way that it needs to be marketed and really get it accomplished. So that's kind of everything in a nutshell. But the maneuverability of backing out, I think, is kind of the issue in question. But as we see it, there's plenty of areas in downtown that back out of a garage door across the sidewalk. And it's really not that different from your typical residential coming out of your garage or out of your driveway across the sidewalk. And the frequency at which these will be used, people, one car per door, so we have 4 on Lee that, probably one time out of work, one time back into work. And then if they need to go anywhere, but our hope is that living downtown, most people will walk or use the new trolley system. That's really all I have. If there's any questions.
Board members, any questions for the applicant?
I realize that it's come to us for review, a recommendation. I have seen it in various parts. Are there anywhere area near the Lee and your areas that are like this that you could point to?
Yeah, 7-Eleven, West California, which is a block west of us, they have a garage that they back out across the sidewalk. 601 West Reno, they have two garage spots that they back out across the sidewalk. Same thing, they maintain the pedestrian walkway, but they ramp up to that. They don't provide the truncated domes for, the seeing impaired, which we want to provide that. We're not being required to, but we want to just try to make every effort to make it as safe as possible for pedestrians. And then 617 West Sheridan also has the same situation, and they're all a block away from our vicinity.
I sort of applaud what you're trying to do in the sense that you've got a difficult site, you're trying to make the most of that, and I understand the need for parking as an amenity that's, there's nowhere, if you don't have it here, you're not going to get it anywhere else, and so I understand that. My only concern is especially as it relates to the overhead doors for 3, 4, and 5 as shown on your site plan. So that leaves you basically a 30-foot wide gap there that is essentially maneuverability, and it's not broken up in any way. And so I am kind of curious, if you would, what are the specific steps and things like that you guys are trying to take to kind of protect the pedestrian?
Well, like I said, each site is by code granted 2 access points, not greater than 30 foot.
Yep.
So we're trying to be cognizant of that, but providing the truncated domes and providing the 100% sidewalk across the whole thing without ramping all the way up to it. Again, with the Downtown Review Committee, one of their recommendations is that we provide garage doors to help notify any pedestrian that a car would be coming out. And that's, I mean, I think that would be enough. I feel like we're kind of going above and beyond of what is required of us, especially with the truncated domes. There's a possibility we could put a sign up or something to even more further aware the pedestrians that there is cross traffic. But like I said, it's the visual cues of it being a drive is really no different than going in and out of the parking lot. And so I feel like we've done everything we can do to alert the pedestrians as much as possible.
Okay. Other questions? Is there anyone else here that wants to be heard on this matter today? No? Well, if there's other discussion, I'll take a motion.
I move to approve the variance on case number 14 for 53 for the reasons that the requisites have been made, and also that it came on recommendation from below.
I'll second it.
I have a motion and a second to approve case number 14453 on the grounds that the elements for variance have been met. Please cast your votes, please. And the application is approved.
Thank you. Appreciate your time.
The last item was continued, so additional items. Communications and reports from boards and committees, board members, the municipal councilor's office. Citizens to be heard. Is there anyone here that was hoping to be heard on something else that wasn't on the agenda today? Okay. Any other business? If none, I'll take a motion.
I move that we adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. And we are adjourned. Thank you.